Sorry, I was told if there are any thoughts or comments you'd like to share, I'd be more than happy to listen to them. I won't presume to make this a question and answer. Please.
And you talked about the Paris Agreement in 2000, if I'm not wrong, 2015, yeah. So by in 2017, beginning 2017, I think after Donald Trump became the president of US in November 2016, so he pulled out of the climate change agreement, Paris climate change agreement. So how do you assess the impact of the non-presence of United States of America and Paris Agreement? Because it's part of P5 and one of the most powerful country in terms of GDP, whatever. So how do you assess that? How does that impact the one of the sustainable development goals of the United Nations? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. The premise of the United Nations, as I try to suggest, is really equality amongst all its 193 member states. And that includes an equality in their right to take national positions. That said, the use or the utility of the United Nations as a forum is that of persuasion, where if a particular country has a point of view which other countries disagree with, then they're able to, in a diplomatic fashion, bilaterally and collectively, try and persuade a change in that point. As far as climate change is concerned, I think it's been fairly recognized in purely objective scientific terms that it is a danger, but more important, it is a danger that can be addressed and even if not fully averted, can at least be contained. If the member states of the United Nations are able to communicate the imperatives of that science to those who may have political disagreements with it, then I think the organization would have lived up to its original purpose.
Has the United Nations found that there has been any country or group who has used ethno-religious conflicts to either obtain, maintain, or control countries and peoples for their own personal or benefits?
That has actually been reflected in two separate processes at the United Nations. The first is Security Council action. When the Security Council takes action against a particular government or a state because of its policies of ethno-religious conflict or encouraging such conflict, that becomes clearly a political verdict by the United Nations. The other is the judicial aspect. One of the principal organs of the United Nations is the International Court of Justice. Now, the International Court of Justice, as you would know, has tried individuals in the former Yugoslavia who were accused precisely of that, of using ethno-religious grounds as a means for mass slaughter or mass murder within their countries. So I think both avenues, the political and the judicial, have been exercised by the United Nations from time to time in the context of various cases.
Okay, thank you so much. I want to ask a question. Your remarks about the achievements of the UN in Syria are very, very laudable, very applaudable. But I have some areas I have not quite understood about the UN. The United Nations started in 1945, and all member states have been meeting here for almost every year. And then they have a whole big building where experts like you work every day towards world peace. I do understand that almost every nation of the world has something like an intelligence agency. Like in Nigeria, we have the Nigerian Intelligence Agency. In America, we have the CIA, we have the KGB, we have the Mossad, we have the MI6, and so on, whose sole purpose seemed to be to sabotage the efforts of other governments. And so if such governments come together every year, what are we expecting? Is that not why perhaps things are degenerating in the world today? Because there doesn't seem to be sincerity of purpose. If you are trained to sabotage other nations, and the other nation is trained to sabotage other nations, and you come together to meet to see how you can live in peace, doesn't it appear like lip service? Thank you.
It's a fascinating postulate, but my only argument or response to that would be, look at the number of cases in the last 70 years where the United Nations has succeeded in bringing countries or groups of countries together. If you look, you mentioned Syria. The Security Council resolution on Syria is resolution 2245. That means that before the suggestion for Syria came, in 2,244 cases, the Security Council was able to act to prevent a breach of international peace and security, either on a global scale or on a bilateral scale. 2,244 instances are not small in the history of time. I fully grant the very, very important point that you're making, that if nations did not distrust each other, if nations did not spy upon each other, if nations did not use intelligence to ferret out information about each other, we may have had 10,000 resolutions, or conversely, we may have had none because we would have needed no resolution because there would have been no war to avert. But within the limitations of the global political landscape and of national identity and of national sovereignty, I think we have done a commendable job. And I only hope, quite honestly, with the input of revered social and religious leaders like you and the intellectual leadership that this conference provides, governments will begin to listen to voices of faith and reason which might otherwise be lost to them.
My question is, how relevant is the United Nations in curbing internal conflicts? We keep giving the excuse that it's either internal conflict or international conflict. Like you said now, you can go to the ICJ, but that is after the event. My country, Nigeria, a lot of killings are going on. Boko Haram, herdsmen. Nobody is there to help. The government, don't need to say it, is compromised. The United Nations is not helping the poor people. Is it afterwards that will now go to the ICJ? Is there anything that the United Nations can actually do than just giving the excuse of sovereignty, national sovereignty and all that? Are there steps being taken to actually help this and curb these conflicts? Because we have more of internal conflict now than international conflict all over the world. If the United Nations stay back, then the people are not benefiting. And we are not handling the conflict. That is one. Then I have my second thought is what I wrote down here. I was trying to write it when you were talking. And I'm in full support of this statement of Father Dominic Père. He said, let us not talk of tolerance again. Because to him, and which is true, this is a negative word. It's a negative word that implies grudging concessions by small, snug consciences. Rather, let us speak of mutual understanding and mutual respect. I think it's time the United Nations should take the step further than tolerance. When the people are on ethnic reason, religion reason, or whatever, are tired of, and I don't feel like tolerating you, then I deal with you. The world has gone beyond that. Thank you.
I'm very grateful for that. Thank you. I don't think there can be any substitute for mutual understanding and mutual respect. And you've chosen the words very wisely and carefully. And I think that also informs the first part of your thoughts. It goes beyond the International Court of Justice. The Security Council has Syria is at the heart of it, an internal problem. Yemen has been an internal problem. We had one of the greatest success stories in the United Nations was its affirmation and proof that what was happening in South Africa during the apartheid years was not an internal problem, but an offense to international peace and security. Yes, there have been many instances in member states of the United Nations where there has been internal conflict which the United Nations has not succeeded in addressing because of political circumstances at that time. And these are failures that we must acknowledge and we must recognize. And I really am grateful to you for the one very important point you made. The United Nations cannot afford to be seen as having double standards. We cannot be seen to be active in the internal affairs of a country that is, quote unquote, less powerful, but retreat when a country that is, quote unquote, more powerful is involved in a situation. My sense is with the pace of democracy the world over, with the fact that leaders are being compelled to listen to their people and people are willing to guide their leaders, that danger is diminishing. And I hope I'm right. But I'm very grateful to you for that thought. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. And I know Basil has something. Please. Thank you.
We at the International Center for Ethno-Religious Mediation, we have a symbol of appreciation, a token of thanks to you, Mr. Ramu Damodaran, for accepting to share your experience and also give us insights from the United Nations about the Sustainable Development Goals and how the UN has been very helpful in managing conflicts around the world. In recognition of your outstanding contributions of major significance to international peace and security, on behalf of the International Center for Ethno-Religious Mediation and all those who have supported this conference, we want to offer you this honorary award.
Thank you so much. Thank you.